start turning into a customer. So all of the forces, music isn't separated from that process. You know, if they see music that's catering to the audience, then they're going to focus all of their energies onto that. And some people get upset about that, or maybe some people can't even see that that's the play, right? But I think it takes the agile artist to recognize that fact and be like, okay, how can I be Tony Bennett now? You know, how can I be Frank Sinatra right now? How can I still be in my older set, but still make songs and make music that is still relative to the youth no matter what, right? So I can still, you know, have some type of validity and relevance to, you know, this newer generation. So I think artists that are just kind of stuck in that mold of, you know, bring that old thing back, let me just cater to my generation. I think they get have a rough time, you know, and even rougher what's coming around the bend. But
do you make music? You make music based off of what's current?
For sure.
Really?
Absolutely. But I don't look at myself as being monolithic. Like you said, I look at myself as being layered, you know? So I made an album called Drogas Light, which for multiple reasons. It was the last record with the label. I didn't want to give them anything that I put my heart and soul into, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was kind of like, you know, if we got this blank slate, let's dip into some trap, you know? It's legitimate. The content is legitimate, you know? It's just that let's play around in this context. And can you actually do it? You know, can you jump on there and go way dumb, but still keep a certain edge to it, or dress it up in a certain contextual or conceptual envelope, where it still comes across as satisfying in what you're doing. And it may not be for, you know, you go on stage and you rapping, or you go to a concert, you know, and the DJ, his set liver than your set, right? Because he's playing all of the current thing and the crowd going crazy, and he's still your fans. You know, they still like bars and lyrics, but they also like to jump up and down and do other stuff. And it was kind of like, yeah, look, why not? You know, so I've always been one to make, if you listen to any of my albums, they're always going to have a little bit for everybody. You know, I think that's as masters in the craft, that's something that we should at least have a mastery of. You know, that's one element that I think we should actually do. Do you?
No.
Interesting. I didn't think you did.
I'm not an employee of the people.
Let me write that down.
I'm not an employee of the people. I'm not here.
Why? What's your cost benefit analysis on that front, brother?
Well, I mean, I learned a lot. I'm learning a lot about myself through the art. And I'm finding that being able to express myself is a coping mechanism for me. You know, so like, it's therapeutic just for me to be able to create, and I need freedom to be able to do so. And I just feel like to blend in with what's going on, you know, like to use certain elements to do that, it's kind of like you're subscribing to be the camouflage. You're subscribing to be the same color. You know what I mean? Like, I look at art like you put it on the canvas and you hang it up and you invite people in. You don't splash paint on it and then follow people around trying to get them to take it. No, like it's a place. Creativity to me is a place. Like it's a place you need to arrive to. Like, you can't be searching. You can't be like shape shifting. You know, like if you want to do a Metro Boomin beat, it should be because you really like a Metro Boomin beat, because ultimately whatever you feel is what's going to come out the best. If you go and you start aiming and you start telling yourself, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then it's going to turn, like, people can hear that. People can hear that. Like, you hear great songs from artists, and then you can always hear when they try to recreate that moment. And we never like it because it's forced. I don't like to force art. I don't like to use a whole lot of thought, and I don't like to abide by rules, because I feel like rules are created by people who don't create. They work at labels. They need to figure out a way to wrap their brain around things, so they start creating anecdotal facts. Oh man, you know, people's attention span, or people hyper focus on anything they like. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have to pay attention to you, so they'll move along faster. you know, but the concept of making albums and building brands off making that album, regardless of where technology goes, that's always going to be a thing. If you make a classic album, that's a classic album. That's something that's lasts. And you can't make a classic album, create something that's going to blend in. Nothing that we've ever seen special, including your classics, was
Yes.
like anything that was out around it at that time. Now, what the impact that it had on the culture makes it to where it's you can speak about it in any generation, which makes it relevant. But that term relevant is not a term that should be in anybody's head when they create music.
My piece is
That's just my theory.
yeah. Um, in the sense where I was raised in form, right? So whenever I addressed or approached say a genre, if we want to say genres of music, um, I always looked at that genre as its own creative space, right? And there were certain rules and rule sets to that space, but there was multiple spaces. If you chose to just jump into one space and stay there, that's one thing. But if you chose to operate in as many spaces as possible, that's another thing. So I was raised to a degree. It was like half and half. I got my first deal when I was like 19, you know? So it was kind of like I was only seriously rapping when I was 17. So you get 2 years of the backpack, of the bars, the crew, the this, that, and the third, the hip hop, the, you know, cipher and blah, 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 blah. And then you right into, now you have to make music for the industry, right? You have to make music for audience. You have to make music to certain forms and certain parameters. And I actually think that it made me a better MC. And if the proof is in the pudding, you know, look at the career and the things that I can create and the things that I can do. And there's a certain level of versatility that you gain from. So, for instance, I didn't used to write to beats, right? So my first raps weren't to beats, like literally not to a beat at all, not even to a metronome. It was literally like, I enjoy words. And my first rap notebooks were all just lists of words. It wasn't bars, it wasn't even metaphors. It was just words. I would go to Walgreens and I would just look at the magazine cover and I would just take all the words off and go home and put them in a rap, right? And it was just this block of text, right? And you could rap it, but it would just be this blocks of bars and interesting words and stuff. But it was not to a beat at all. And when it came time to be like, you know what, you know, put the studio together, let's get some instrumentals, let's make some music at that point. Go from raps to just making music. And none of the verses fit, none of them. I had to like slow down this part, take this part out, do this, do that. It was just super freeform, wild, and fit to nothing. And my first commercial experience was, I was in high school and we had a radio station at our high school, but it only broadcast in the school and then maybe a little bit outside the school, right? It wasn't like a actual big radio station, but we had it. Had a studio, the whole thing. And the brother who had the radio, he had a radio show that he would do, I think like after school was out, but it was still people kind of in school, maybe doing after classes or detention or whatever. And they would play it over the speaker system in the school, right? The announcement system. And or you could turn it on or something like that. And he wanted us to do and it's me and my crew, he wanted us to do basically an intro for his show.